Hey, Oscar fans. Lionsgate just threw a bomb into the Oscar race with Bombshell, which just started screening for members of the press. I'm Daniel Montgomery here with Susan Wloszczyna to talk about how this race is changing. Susan, it's early yet to see big changes since our experts have just started seeing this film. But tell us about the state of the race and where it could go from here.
Well, the top two films are still The Irishman and Once Upon a Time, but right now among our experts, The Irishman is ahead because there's 27 out of 28 experts picking both films, but The Irishman has better odds at the moment because more are predicting it to win 16. And the other news is Bombshell, which is the story of the Fox sexual abuse scandal. And it goes and sees it through the female eyes of the women who were calling out Roger Ailes. But that's at number 13, but it just screened for the first time. So I think this is the start of something that it could start rising because the reactions were very positive, especially for Charlize Theron as Megyn Kelly. And she will probably benefit from it too in the actress race. And Joker's at number 12 among the experts. And I think they're probably more mixed than the people predicting our combined odds because there it's at number 10. And in between, it's interesting. Well, Jojo Rabbit and Parasite are doing very well. They made the top 5, as well as Marriage Story, which has been in number 3 for most of the time we've been predicting since early August. So that's sort of the overall picture for now.
And how many experts are currently predicting Bombshell? Because obviously it's early yet, but as people see it, more and more are going to start.
Right. Well, no one's going out on a limb to make it win, but 7 have. And some of those 7, like Sasha Stone and like that, and I think our own Tom O'Neill, who saw it, have predicted it now. It's not on the top or anything, but as you say, as people see it and more reactions come in, I think they'll get more excited for it. And I like Jay Roach's approach to these kind of rip from the headlines kind of movies. And he, just the trailer was very tense, and that was like 2 minutes. So.
Yeah. And these ripped from the headlines movies do have a tendency, even when they break late, to do really well. Big Short didn't start screening until later in that season, and it did incredibly well. Vice also last year didn't start screening until late. Well, we have Tom O'Neill here. He's actually seen Bombshell, and as all of us will soon. Tom O'Neill, tell us what you thought of the film and what you think of its chances. You're muted, Tom.
I think we now have a 3-way race for Best Actress. I think Scarlett Johansson has a real chance to win. Renee, of course, is the solid front runner for now. But boy, did Charlize Theron surprise us all. She is so uncannily like Megyn Kelly that you're often confused watching this. Is this archival footage that you're seeing on the screen, or is this really her? And this is what they love at the Oscars. They love Helen Mirren becoming Queen Elizabeth. They like Eddie Redmayne becoming Stephen Hawking. They like a famous person absorbed seamlessly into another famous person, even when they don't quite really look like them, in the case of Helen Mirren in a way, I guess. But it doesn't really matter because in this case, they're dead ringers for each other. Now, that all said, the screening that Daniel's referring to is a case of where Lionsgate really was ambitious. They took over the Pacific Design Center in Hollywood. The signage alone they had was so impressive. They had 2 receptions with this screening. They had a reception beforehand with food and a reception afterward with food.
And drink.
And drink, of course. Lots and lots of drink. They had, this was so hilarious. I was sitting kind of right behind Nicole Wallace from MSNBC. So here you have this expose of Fox News going on screen, and they actually peopled the audience with people like that. So it was very exciting, but you have to be careful sometimes if you're influenced by the spectacle that we stepped into, all of us, which was very impressive. But that said, it's a wonderful, heartfelt performance. And what is so surprising about it is how heroic Megyn Kelly is portrayed here. This is liberal Hollywood. She's not beloved here. There are even many people out there in the hinterlands who don't feel warmly anyway toward Megyn Kelly. But boy, she comes across beautifully as a character in the movie. Very conflicted, very, very honest and real, I think. Anyway, we have a race. I'm not sure she can win, but boy, oh boy, it's an impressive performance on screen.
And let's bring in another editor, Paul Sheehan, to discuss the film. Now we've got Charlize Theron is high up in this race now, and so is Renee Zellweger. They've both won Oscars before. Is there a possibility that we could see that almost kind of handicap them and open the door for maybe a Scarlett Johansson win? She's never even been nominated, and she seems like she might be up the Academy's alley. Or is it Charlize all the way?
Well, I think what Scarlett Johansson has going for her really is Netflix, and the fact that Marriage Story will be in theaters but then streaming on Netflix, and I'm always mindful of the fact that the Academy has so expanded its membership, so many international members, and I think a lot of them have Netflix but maybe aren't on lists to get screeners, and so boy, talk about sort of a guaranteed delivery to those voters. And it's a film that I think that'll play really well on a television, Marriage Story. It's a very intimate film. Now, having said that, I think, Judy Garland, universally known, and I think that'll be certainly help Renee Zellweger because she really embodies Judy. So I think with Bombshell, I don't know how much of it, if it maybe feels too much of just sort of a domestic story.
And Joyce Eng, we also have here to discuss this race. What do you think, Joyce, about where Bombshell is and might be moving in Best Picture, Best Actress, and the rest of the Oscar race?
I'm just happy it finally looks like Charlize will get her long overdue third nomination because it's been 14 years since her second one for North Country. I don't think she's in our top 5 yet because I don't think enough people have moved her in or moved her up. But I think she's like right outside 6. So I expect her to be in there soon. I do think if she becomes a huge factor, as we expect her to be based on this first taste of the movie, then I think she could hurt Renee more than Scarlett, because right now we're thinking those are our top 3. But, like you just said, they've both won already in the same year, actually. And they're both playing, I wouldn't say Bombshell is like a biopic, but they're based on true stories. They both play famous real people, one way more beloved than the other. So I feel like Charlize could eat away at some of that similar type of vote from Renee, and Scarlett could sneak in there and take it. She's having a great year with Endgame. She also has Jojo Rabbit, which comes out this week, and she could get into supporting. And she's also overdue for her first nomination she could get to this year. I don't have Bombshell yet in Best Picture, but I'll probably put it in soon after I see it, whenever I see it, because I could definitely see it being like the Vice of this year. So
somebody said that.
And people, might be surprised, like Jay Roach, known for his comedies, that he could deliver this kind of prestige film at the Oscars. But that was the same thing we thought about Adam McKay, who brought in the Big Short, won the Oscar for writing it, earned a nomination for directing it, was nominated again for directing Vice. And Jay Roach has a pedigree already. If you look at his TV work, Recount and Game Change, starring Julianne Moore as Sarah Palin. Honestly, I think if that had been on the big screen, it would have been an Oscar contender already. So he has a formidable track record. Everybody feel free to jump in. What do you think about Jay Roach potentially for Best Director, Best Screenplay, maybe? Could this be kind of a sleeping giant that's coming into this?
Well, I wonder if Jay Roach will suffer the way sort of Peter Farrelly did last year, with Green Book. You can direct the film that wins Best Picture but not get nominated yourself. So I do wonder if that director's branch is quite parochial, and I'm not sure how welcoming they'll be of somebody like a Jay Roach.
Yeah, I feel like most people have pretty much like similar top 5 or maybe 6, 7. So I don't know. I think Bombshell will have to break out really big for Jay to make a dent in there. I could definitely see him getting into screenplay because in original, I feel like there's like a solid top 4 and a pretty open 5th slot. So I could see it getting in there. But I think director will be tougher. And, like Paul said, that branch is very idiosyncratic, which I love. They've given us a lot of surprises in the last few years. So I don't know if he'll need to get a big precursor if he were to make it in.
Let me jump in here for a second.
Parasite, Tom. I mean, isn't that something that people are underestimating? Parasite.
No. Yes, I mean it's the cool movie right now to absolutely love, and it's possibly the best movie of the year. It's outstanding. It just opened in theaters. I think he's going to win Best Director. We've seen in that director's category, the art house darlings prevail, and Boone, if I'm pronouncing his name right, is, I believe, the man of the hour. That's going to win Best Foreign Film, Best International Foreign Film, and it's going to win. He'll be nominated. I think he'll actually win. But let's keep Jay Roach. What Paul meant a second ago was talking about the reason that the director's branch might not be so welcoming is because he is perceived mostly as a TV person, and there can be that divide here in Hollywood. But let's talk about Margot Robbie for a minute, because this is really interesting. Forget Nicole Kidman in this movie. She's fine, she's great, but it's not performance Oscar caliber. Margot is the big question mark here. Now, she's got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's not a big flashy performance in there, but of course it's the iconic Sharon Tate performance. Now, here she gives a performance. Boy, Margot, she's got tons of screen time. She has a crying scene that goes on forever, actually too long near the end. She has the big money scene. She is a fictional character who represents all of the young, beautiful women that Roger preyed upon. So she's a kind of plot device in the movie. That may hurt her if she's not actually playing a real person, as in the case of Charlize. But the other thing I think that actually hurts her here is that it's a Barbie doll role. What they did when they created the character is they just had her be very just beautiful, kind of runway model beautiful, which Margot is, of course. But anyway, I think that may be a drawback with her. There's a great debate going on in our message boards now about Margot in supporting, same category for either Hollywood or Bombshell. I don't think I know the answer to that, but it's fascinating. In terms of Jay Roach getting in for director, I agree with Joyce. I think something dramatic has to happen to move him up. It's a wonderful piece of direction and writing. It's a very impressive film. And keep in mind, this is on the heels of The Loudest Voice in the Room, the show on Showtime that was also about Roger Ailes, recently in competition for awards. And I think the problem with that is it doesn't have, The Loudest Voice doesn't have the enormous heart that this does. Boy, this has got a wonderful, emotional, empathetic undercurrent in it, regardless of what you think a lot of these characters. Even as a monster, the John Lithgow, Roger Ailes portrayal is as horrible as he is, and ghoulish and vile. You're moved by his plight. Anyway. But it's a fascinating race. Bombshell is a real contender, and it's really shaking things up. We had all thought, well, this is one race that was signed, sealed, and delivered. But I think Charlize has a lot of goodwill in this town. And in terms of Scarlett Johansson, boy, she's got tons of screen time, a big emotional role in Marriage Story. I've seen it. But she's not portraying, it doesn't have the degree of difficulty portraying a real-life person that they often want, that kind of thing. No, we have a race here.
Yeah. I do think about Margot Robbie. That's a a film and a performance I've been looking forward to, just to see how it shakes out with that and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it could be a situation, it could be like a Jessica Chastain situation where you have multiple films, eventually they settle on one, but maybe you don't win for it anyway. Or it could be an Alicia Vikander situation where she won for The Danish Girl, but really she wouldn't have won for The Danish Girl if people didn't have so much love for her in Ex Machina as well. I think whichever she had gotten in for that year, she would have won for. And this year, I think it could be a similar situation where I'm not 100% sure which performance will get Margot Robbie the nomination, but I feel more confident that she'll get in for at least, for one of them. And whichever one gets in, the other film may very well help her win.
By the way, this is such a conflict for strategy PR, which runs both the campaigns for Hollywood and for Bombshell. Mike Kupferberg, who we all know and love, the strategist with Strategy PR. He was there. Sasha Stone from Awards Daily and I were talking to him afterwards, after we had seen it. And poor Michael's going, "Oh my God, what do we do with Margot? Is it Holly?" I mean, the man who's running her campaigns for both movies, even he didn't know. And he was just turning to everyone in the room going, "Margot, Hollywood or Bombshell?" It's a fascinating situation.
I think she needs to have someone, like one group just pick one movie for her, like nominate for that movie, and then like let it take off for her, so like people can rally around it. Because a lot of times in the past, when like someone has had like two movies in the running, one of them is stronger than the other, so then you just kind of forget about the other one. But both of these feel like it could be like Hollywood is strong, and Bombshell feels like it will be, so she just needs like one or two groups to just nominate for one of them, and then I feel like a lot of people would just follow suit.
In terms of, let me jump in here one more second. In terms of Scarlett Johansson having the two movies and the two roles, I've seen Jojo Rabbit as well, and her performance in there is not, it's kind of one note on purpose. She's just the wonderful mother of the Jojo Rabbit boy, and she's more of a kind of a symbol than a really deeply character like we see in Marriage Story. So some people were saying, the support might go to Scarlett for JoJo. No, it's about the boy. It's about the Hitler character. It's about the history happening around you. So I don't think she's a contender there.
Well, we will continue to track this race as Bombshell rises potentially in our odds in many categories. And of course, thank you for watching and for listening. And it's obviously you, Gold Derby viewers and users, who really determine what our odds do when you make your predictions at goldderby.com. Make or update them often, because this race is always changing. And we will soon be discussing what changes are in store from here on out. So thank you everyone for joining me, and we will see you next time.